Let's have a look at the cab area. Okay, let's start on the driver's side door here. Plenty of room for storage. There's room in the door for my main thermos here, umbrella or extra jacket or whatever. You can put something else extra underneath there. So that's very handy. Another little compartment down here. You could, I suppose, put your phone or something in there. Right here is a compartment that's actually a cup holder. I use that to put my camera in, so I have quick access to that if I want to snap something when we're going down the road. And then there's another holder down here which I have my secondary thermos in, which I call my lady in waiting. Wife doesn't like to hear that too much, but then the steering wheel tilts up and down, which is nice. I wish it would tilt down a little bit further than it does, but it's pretty serviceable. Then up here, added a dash cam. There's a holder here for our tollway sender, and windshield wipers and so forth. Wish we had the automatic windshield wipers, but we don't. But that's okay. And then the dash here, there's a little screen here that gives the temperature and time and all that. We did not get the unit that has the GPS built in. Just didn't happen to come in this unit, which is just as well, because the GPS that we do have actually is the Garmin RV GPS, and they make a number of different models. But that's kind of nice because you can input the size of the unit, the length and height and all that kind of thing like that, and it lets you know what bridges you can get underneath, and roads are going to be okay for you and so forth. So. And then here I've added a four-way outlet that has an expansion, so you have four more cigarette lighter plugs here to plug your USB items into. And then because we want to control those separately, this one actually has a remote control for it here, so that you can turn these off and on as you so choose. One of the reasons for that is that we have wireless phone chargers for my phone and for my wife's phone, and you can turn the charger off when the battery's full on your iPhone. You can turn the charger off. So these are pretty nice. You stick your phone in, it pulls down on it and holds onto it. So those work out pretty well. Then the radio units behind here, we don't use the radio as a radio real much, but we do use it as a USB player. Pretty good sounding stereo. There's a little port behind here that I have a right angle plug-in that is a connector for running in a stereo, 1/8" stereo plug into there. And a little holder here that I put in here for various bits and bobs, notebook and that kind of thing like that. This is where the 12-volt plugs into. A couple of more coffee cup holders, which is where we generally put our cups into. A little extra dish there. On the GPS here, I actually made a little bracket here that's a simple tray with some pegs on either side. And the reason for that is that the GPS can just pull out of here, and I have the cord coiled up with a Velcro there, so that my wife can grab it and program things or look things up or do whatever other monkey business is required with it. And so that's pretty handy. Below the dash is another little cubby area underneath there, and I just made a little drawer that slides underneath there. Pretty serviceable. Might make one out of wood someday, but this actually has been working pretty well, so if it's not broken, I guess I won't fix it. So, and going up the dashboard, compass. This is the rear screen that is for the camera, so you have the rear and side view cameras. I had a real interesting thing happen with this. On the way home from the dealer, about 100 miles out or so, the bracket that this is mounted on, or that this was mounted on right up under here, actually tore off the windshield, and they must have used very good glue, because it actually tore a piece of glass out of the windshield. I couldn't believe it. And so when the guys replaced the windshield, which is what needed to happen, they actually put a bigger bracket on so that that problem would not reoccur. So so at any rate, I got a hold of Mike Fleeser, our guy at Terrytown RV, and they stood behind it and got us a new windshield put in and so forth. So it was pretty unbelievable that that happened, but they did take care of us. I was real happy with that. So then here you have control for the lights and so forth. These lights up here. I just put a little label on here, so in case I forget how high we are when we're going under a bridge someplace, I can see it right there. And more cubbies up on the top here. We just have some, our atlases and binoculars and CDs and all that kind of stuff like that up here. Some more on my wife's side. Mirror. We each have a little mirror on either side here. Then on her side there's a handle to get in and out, so that's kind of a nice thing. A little grab handle. And then glove compartment is right down here. And pretty good size glove compartment there. And then another large well for things on her side, and more pockets in the door. And we're pretty well pleased with the space that we have here. Another thing I added here is a 120 volt inverter, 400 watt inverter, because my wife likes to plug in various things while we're traveling, and this way she can use this one, and I don't have to have the inverter in the coach running. So that works out pretty well. Another little feature I added below the dash here, which is something that's, of course, is essential for everyone, is this little button right here. And what this button does is, so very handy when you want to alert someone on the sidewalk or just for fun. Gotta have a little fun once in a while, right? And swinging around to the seats. The seats are pretty comfortable. We're pretty happy with these. We just put seat covers on these. These are they're leather seats. We just wanted to take a little better care of them. And you've got back and forth and lumbar support and the adjustable back and adjustable armrests and all that. They're not electric, but that's fine. We had actually hoped for swivel seats like the Sprinter has, but that was not available in here. One of the reasons it's not available is that this has the parking brake right in the middle here, which would be nice if that weren't there, but it is, so that's what we got. Another thing I added, I talked about before a little bit, is a CB radio. As I mentioned, I'm not a big CB guy, but it is nice to be able to get road conditions up ahead. What's nice about this one is this also has the weather radio built into it, and the weather radio will broadcast if there's a weather alert in your area. Even if the CB is turned off, it will still broadcast that alert. So, and this unit's kind of nice actually. This actually has a cord here that, or a connector here that disconnects the entire unit. So basically the whole radio's in this unit here. So you can, if you're putting it in storage or whatever, you can just take this whole thing out and take it with you. Added a little speaker here as well, so you can hear it a little better, hear the weather forecast a little better from that speaker than you would out of the small hand. The passenger seat has a compartment below it, which was initially used for storage of the hydraulic jack for changing a tire, and it had a bracket right in the middle of the opening in the bottom there. So since we have that jack now in the side garage area that I spoke about earlier, that opened up this area to be used for putting in extra storage. So we can fit a couple of cases of soda in there, so that works pretty well. Of course, any square inch you can get for storage is a big deal in a smaller unit like this. So coming into the rig itself, the door has the deadbolt and the regular standard lock. We don't actually use the deadbolt, but this is the handle to operate the door to open and close it. I put a little colored piece of shrink tube on here because when people go to grab especially at night, or especially if you have visitors that aren't used to the unit, it's difficult with this all being black to see where this handle is. So just a little added safety feature there. Then on the screen door latches on like this. One of the things that's a difficulty is that when people go to close the door, close this whole door, they should grab onto here, but people grab this, and this is just a thin piece of plastic. These are pretty fragile. You can buy them on the web, but they're about 40 bucks. So what I did was I added a metal, or actually aluminum bar across the top of the screen and attach it to the frame so that you can grab this any place. I just painted it white then to match the door. So you can grab this any place to close the door, and you're not putting all the pressure on that little thin plastic handle and snapping that handle off. Where you come into the unit, there's no step on the bottom because the unit's quite low to the ground, so very nice for going in. You come in onto this first step here, which of course is always dry, doesn't have snow or ice or anything on it, and since it's inside. And then the first step here is actually a battery compartment, and they put in a Rely-on lithium battery. I was quite surprised that they did that, because that's a pretty expensive battery. That's a $700-800 battery. And then fuse for the inverter is in there, and a relay and a couple other connectors in there. I like to keep a little dustpan and brush by the door to clean things out and brush the inside of the unit off with and everything. And I wanted to put a bracket here to hang that on so it was close by, but the problem is, of course, that this step flips up to get it access to the battery, so I couldn't have something there permanently. So I devised a little bracket to go on here, which is magnetic, so you just clip that baby on and you're good to go. Then over here, coming in, I got a little bin to put my slippers in, so I can kind of do the Mr. Rogers thing when I get in the unit and keep the floor clean. Okay, now we're inside the unit, and of course at night when you get to your camp spot, first thing you do, you walk in the door and you want to turn the lights on. So you get to reach up here behind you and fumble around on this panel here until you find the switch that turns the lights off and on that you want. But you may turn on the water pump or turn on the generator or turn on the voltmeter, so not a very good plan. So what I did was to rewire it so that right when you walk in the door, there's two light switches here. You just touch these, lights come on, very convenient, and it's really the way they should have done it. A little bit difficult to get back far enough to show the entire unit, but what we've done here is all the doors, all the hinges, all the hardware, all the surfacing in here, all of this has all been redone. When you get one of these units, of course, they have the low end, I would call it contact paper on particle board type cabinetry, and I get it, it's a cost thing, but if you scratch that stuff, or if you have any kind of issue with it, it's almost impossible to repair that. So we've redone almost everything on the inside of this unit, and I'll go through a couple of those specifics here. This is the area that you see when you're sitting on the driver's side chair and looking out. Originally there was just this window here, which is a narrow window. It's a small unit, I get it, you know, so but it's nice to be able to see out. The window that's in the door had frosted glass in it, which is sort of the standard security thing or whatever, but we didn't want that. We wanted to be able to see out so that the person sitting here has a little bit nicer view and can see out a little better. So I got a kit that was online to take this window out and replace it with clear glass that is a UV protected glass. So it's really nice, especially as you're traveling. The person sitting in this seat here can see outside a lot better, and it's just a much nicer view. Then for nighttime, my wife made a cute little curtain here that stores nicely in this corner, and then to put this on, you just go onto these two little hooks here with it, one here and then one here, and covers the window very nicely. Works real well. Originally the dining room area here had two chairs that folded down like this to make a little kind of a single person bed in here,
And while that was a good idea, and I get it, they're trying to make it a little more universal for people, that didn't really work for us. So we took that all out and used the same pedestal table here, actually made a new table to go on here, and put in these chairs, which are much more comfortable. These chairs swivel and have armrests, and this one has a electric reclining footrest on here, which is kind of a nice thing. So you can, if you want to sleep in that chair, it'd be no problem to do that. So then another issue is that while they had the table so that the table could rotate like this, when you want to get through from the cab area into the coach area while you're traveling, especially if you want to, use the bathroom, get something out of the fridge, whatever, it's very difficult to get by. So what I did was to rearrange this table, put this table on slides, so that it's very simple to just move this table back out of the way now. Or you can rotate it to whatever direction you want. You can basically move this table around 6 ways from Sunday here and get a lot of different configurations. So that works real well for us. And my wife wanted a additional little side table for her where she sits here, so I built a table here and I had our cabinet guy match the same countertop top as the counters. So this just pulls up a little bit, slides out like this, and there's a little bracket underneath here. Try to show that from under there. That holds that table up. So when you want to move it out of the way, all you have to do is lift this, that arm falls, slide this back, and that bracket goes back behind a little rubber bumper here, which keeps the unit from sliding out while you're traveling. Plus the rubber keeps it quiet. The guy we had redo our cabinets was called the Cabinet Maker in New Berlin, Wisconsin, John Phillips. I think they did a really great job. We talked to a number of people about doing it. Most people run away when you talk to them about redoing cabinets in an RV. I think you're talking about a dumpy house trailer someplace or something, I don't know. But John did a number of things for us that I think really helped us out a lot. One of the things is that the cabinets have latches that stay up very easily, and they also have automatic closing hinges on it with magnetic latches, so that not only do they always close, they close and stay latched, so that when you're traveling you don't have any kind of rattles. Another issue we had here on the front cabinets is that the center stile on this front cabinet was wider, and it made it very difficult to get things in here to store them. So that was another hassle that John took care of for us. There's a lot of small things here, like added a receptacle and switch here that control the power to our hotspot, which goes right here. So you can turn the power off and on. Once it's charged, you just reach up here and flip that and it'll turn off. This is the antenna divider that comes from that wiring antenna that's on the roof that I talked about before. So we get fairly decent internet reception in most places. This is just typical of what most RV companies do. This is the antenna lead for the TV. Okay, if you notice, I have a right angle connector on here. When they ran this in, they had a great big loop that came through here. So anytime you'd put something in this cabinet, naturally that would push on this connector here. It doesn't take too long for that cabinet to get wrecked. Another couple of things I added was just a switch here so that we can turn the power to the stereo off and on, so that that's not powered on all the time, especially if you're running on battery. We don't like to have that thing running all the time. So, and then there's an additional connection here that goes to the HDMI, which goes to the Jensen stereo, and it goes to the TV as well. The Jensen multiplayer comes with the unit, and we're pretty well happy with it. It's got very good sound. It's got multiple speakers in the ceiling, and it allows you to, if you put a DVD in here, it will play that on the TV. So very handy. It's kind of got everything you need there. It's got inside and outside speakers. As I say, we don't use the outside speakers, but it has auxiliary inputs and so forth and so on. So that works pretty well. Added a number of different little just handy things. A little hook on here to if you want to hang a hat on there. that works real well. The cabinets came with lights underneath them, the LED strip lights underneath them, but they weren't real good lights. I replaced those actually with color corrected LEDs, and so at night, a lot of times if you're sitting in a chair here reading or something, you put that on, and it's very easy on the eyes. Here again, this top cabinet had a very wide style in it, quite wide, and so it was very difficult to get things in and out of that small area up there. You need all the space you can, so John replaced that with a narrower style, and that works real well for us also. Add a little mirror on here. A lot of times it seems to take a while for the bathroom to be available, so this way I can at least comb my hair and shave here if I need to. Again, a real nice feature with these doors is having the auto close, soft close on them. So these guys close up automatically and latch, so no noises when you're traveling. Very. When we got the unit, there was a slide out in where this cabinet is here, and you would open that door and you could pull the TV out on a slide here, which was, you know, a neat idea, I guess, but a couple of difficulties with that. One problem with that is that when the TV was slid out here, you could neither walk through this room without bending way down or get into the next room, nor could you get at the microwave. So both of those were things that we do fairly frequently while we're sitting here eating supper, so that was an issue for us. So to circumvent that problem, I actually mounted the TV down here, and this TV is on a bracket so that this can come out and pretty much move anywhere you want to. You can actually even turn it and see it from the bedroom if you want to. We don't actually do that, but so that's very handy for us.
I should mention at the end of my review, I'll post a bunch of before and after pictures. The quarter sawn oak that you see here now was originally a lighter wood, kind of modern looking wood, so, but we wanted to have something a little more conservative. So at any rate, this cabinet here originally had the TV in it, and the TV could be pulled out through here and would come out on a slide, and I guess it was a interesting idea, but for us that didn't really work well because for a number of reasons. First of all, obviously you would lose this cabinet space up in here, and on here they had, where we now have this cabinet door, they had a access cover on there, and so there was you couldn't utilize any of this space at all. The problem was when you pull the TV out, you could not access a microwave, nor could you walk through here to get into the bedroom. Another problem was that when you're sitting in the kitchen area here, you're looking up toward the ceiling. After a while you get a sore neck from staring up at quite a sharp angle going up that way. So what I did was to mount the TV down here, and that TV is on a bracket that will allow it to slide out. You can move it at any angle. You can actually even flip it around to look into the bedroom if you wanted to. But this allows us to get the TV back out of the way and yet have access to it and have it at a reasonable viewing angle. Now the problem with being on the slide here is that it could potentially slide out while you're traveling. So I have a little bracket here that just flips down by gravity, and so you can slide the TV out if you want to here. Then when you push it back in, just pull this bracket down and the TV is locked into place for traveling. Another issue that we had is originally there was a small oval-shaped sink here which had a lid on it, and the faucet would flip up, flipped it down, flipped the lid shut, and there was a 2-burner propane stove with a lid that flipped up, and they had a kind of a 60s psychedelic bottle glass thing behind here, which is part of the design I guess they had. And then over in this corner here they had a circular lid that you could lift up and drop things into the trash, which was in the outside bin that I described earlier. After about a month, the ring that they had holding this on from underneath, which was stapled to the underside of the countertop, fell in, and that whole lid fell through anyway. So what we did is, in redoing all of these cabinets, we put on a new countertop, put in a sink that actually works. The previous sink I couldn't even get my thermos underneath. So, and it was just too annoying to flip that thing up and down, flip the lid up and down. You couldn't fit anything in the sink. Might have worked in a station wagon in the 50s or something, but that didn't work for us. So at any rate, we put in a bar sink into here, put on a nice new countertop with a considerably better covering than what they had there, and redid all of the drawers and changed this area here from what was previously just a access plate, which consisted basically of a kind of a piece of cardboard with contact paper on it and a little frame around it. And so we put a door on here so that you can actually open that and access the inside of that. I'll show that in just a second. And added cabinet doors here. We retained the slide that they had in here. This works real well. The only thing I did was to take off the latch they had on the bottom here, because it was a little drawbar latch, so when you would pull this out, the little pin would slide down, and if you closed it, you'd bang into the cabinet here. So with the new type of doors that John put on for us, they close and latch magnetically, so we didn't really have the need for that little holder in there. This cabinet area here, we, as I mentioned, there was a access plate on that before. We put a door on here, and this is just a little carabiner type hoop I put on here, and covered this with some shrink tube so it doesn't scratch anything, and she uses that for a towel holder here. And this is now where we keep the waste basket. This is just on a simple bar, goes inside of here like this, works very easily, door closes, you're good to go. Inside this cabinet is the Truma furnace and water heater, which is now much more accessible. This is the inside that the new storage bin that I talked about earlier. And in the back of here I made a little storage rack to, or a little mounting for our vacuum, so just sticks in there, stays out of the way. The waste basket we do not ever leave in this cabinet when we are running either the water heater or the furnace for reasons of combustion concerns. The Truma actually does not get real hot inside this cabinet at all, but just for safety's sake we always leave that out. Also, this cabinet here, I put in a new cabinet in here, put in adjustable shelves, and this cabinet also can be removed with 6 screws, and this entire cabinet can come out also if you had need to get at the furnace from this side. You can actually get through this access door very easily now and get at everything you need to do with the furnace. Switch it off and on. Here's the drain for the winter time, is right here, so very easy to use, very easy to get at.
We had all the flooring replaced in the unit, and I have to say the guys did an excellent job of all the seams. Everything is, they really just did a perfect job. Everything in the entire unit is, they put in with one piece. I couldn't believe it, including going into the bathroom, which is another separate room. They really did an amazing job. It's a very good quality flooring that we put in. Previous flooring was a wood grain, kind of a plank thing. It's the newer in vogue flooring, but of course that didn't go with the quarter sawn oak, so, and we wanted a different little warmer color flooring, so we went with this. I added quite a few new receptacles. This is a 4-way receptacle with a 12-volt receptacle below it, and that's down in the corner below the chair here. They had very few receptacles, and most of the ones that they did have, they had up on the bottom of the cabinets because it was easier for them to wire those in. But those are very inconvenient. You can't see them to reach to plug into, and so I added quite a few around the coach here. Some more receptacles that I added. These are right on the countertop area here in the kitchen. As I mentioned previously, they had one receptacle up underneath here which you couldn't get at, and very easy to get the cords pulled out of there, so just another area where I've added things, and added more receptacles down here as well, and a lot of other places in the coach. This is the microwave. It's a high point microwave. It's actually a convection microwave oven. We don't use the convection portion, but I could hope for a little bit more intuitive controls on it, more similar to other standard household microwaves, but does the job, does okay. I have a little guard inside of there to keep the plate from rattling when we're going down the road. The refrigerator is a Norcold 3150, and fairly sizable. We have enough room. There's little latches underneath here that you flip open so that you can hold it open during storage, so that it has ventilation. But unfortunately, when people come by here and lean against this, it sort of snaps those off. So to circumvent that, I just put a little magnet in a little plastic bag and stick that baby on there, and voila, now you have a door that's not shut all the way. And even if you bang into it, it doesn't make any difference. It's just a magnet. Same thing on the bottom there. So those, of course, are only used for when units in storage. A couple of things that experienced RVers may know. This refrigerator and other similar propane refrigerators can experience this. When you're above 5,500 feet, you are very shaky as far as being able to use propane. I presume due to the oxygen content of the air, but a lot of times if you're traveling in the mountains, you're above 5,500 feet all the time. So then you need to either plug in at night and use the electric, or use the 12 volt, which runs when or is provided to the unit when the engine on the vehicle is running. Now, one thing that's a little bit difficult here is that you can only select that. There's a little bar here for selecting the source for the refrigerator and the coolness and so forth and so on. You can only select the 12 volts when the vehicle is running, so you have to start the car, start the vehicle, then come back to the fridge and select 12 volts, so it will run on 12 volts during the day when you're in the mountains, so that you're not on propane. The reason for that is that there's a relay that only allows that to be selected when it receives voltage from the vehicle battery. So while it all works if you know it, you really need to go through the manual carefully so you know how everything operates in here. But in general, fairly good size fridge, racks in the door and so forth, and pretty serviceable. Yeah, you wouldn't want to probably try to serve a family of 6 out of this, but I suppose you could if you had to. Below the fridge is a drawer, and the CO2 alarm, which unfortunately, I read the manual, it's supposed to operate down to 7 volts. When the vehicle gets down to 11.6 volts, this starts a screeching alarm in this thing. So frequently at night, if you're in a campground and you're running the furnace and you're running on battery, you'll drop down to maybe 11 volts or so forth, which is not a problem for anything else, but this thing just starts screaming. So unfortunately, I had to add a switch here to shut the unit off, and the discipline there is you have to make real sure that you turn the switch back on so that you're protected again. Wish I didn't have to do that, but I think there may be an issue with the unit. I've got to look into that as well. And here I have a little switch which will energize or start the inverter, and a selector switch here so I can select between landline and inverter. Then that other little pilot light right there comes on when the inverter is running. This area is down next to the stairs. There's a couple of switches here for the awning and the outside porch light and outside light that goes on the awning. A selector that turns off the 12 volts. Actually doesn't turn off all the 12 volts as we discovered, but that's what that's for. Inside of here there's the converter which controls the charging of the coach battery and so forth. And here is the access to the circuit breakers and fuses that are in here. When we got the unit, there was a legend sheet on here which was handwritten, which I guess that's okay, kind of a custom unit. Unfortunately, it was wrong. 2 of the circuit breakers were mislabeled and 3 of the fuses were mislabeled. So corrected all that. The last thing you want when you're having an electrical problem is a circuit that's mislabeled. So got that all corrected. I did a little AutoCAD drawing here and got the labeling on there correctly, and so we have that, so that's now a little bit more functional. Then heading through into the bedroom area, there's a divider door here which you could close off the bedroom with. It's just the 2 of us, so we don't really use that, but it is available there. And then this is the thermostat for I should say the control for the Truma water heater and furnace. This is something you should really read the manual for. I didn't understand a lot about this until I got it and read the manual, went through it. A lot of dealers are now a little bit more familiar with them, but it does quite a few different things. And one of the nice things is that the Truma water heater it will heat water, of course, but it'll run on electric or on propane, and you can choose 2 different levels of electric to run it on. And one of the things that's confusing that I don't think it said in the manual, I think I had to look this up online, but it is basically a boiler unit. So I was concerned that I might not be able to run it in the winter when I had everything winterized, but it actually will run and it will heat with no water in the system. So I was glad to find that out. Okay, moving on into the bedroom area here. As I mentioned earlier, we really like being able to have the bed stay made up during the day and not have to put something up or down or change it into a couch or some other monkey business like that. So this works real well for us. In the corner of the bedroom here, there is the shower, and the see if I can get back far enough here to see it a little better. When we got the unit, this curtain here actually went around this entire radius, and the problem with that, they're saving weight, saving money, but the problem with that is when that shower curtain was around there and you turn on the hot water, that shower curtain would move in and stick to you, and not a very pleasant situation. So I put some 80-20, again this is this aluminum extrusion product, made some frames with just Lexan or plastic panels in them there on the side of the unit. So now we still have a small radius on here, but it's much more doable than it was previously. On the top here I just put a little Velcro strap to keep this thing attached. When you close this, there's a magnet here that will attach to the other. We close this, it'll attach to this side and just sticks on here magnetically, so that works pretty well. A couple of just practical things on the faucets. I actually labeled them as to what direction the hot and cold is, because I'm sure you've all been in a RV shower before, but it's difficult to, as you're trying to adjust the heat, since especially you have an extra little shutoff valve up here, as you're trying to adjust the hot and cold, it can be confusing as to which way the faucet's supposed to turn, because they don't all turn the same way, and because from faucet to faucet, even in the same unit, they may turn different directions. So just a little real practical thing to say, okay, this is more hot, this is more cold. Here again in the bedroom, with redoing these top cabinets, there was a very wide stile in the center of these, so again making it difficult to get into those 2 top cabinets. So that's been replaced. We have new doors, everything has the auto close on it and so forth. Each side has a nice little wardrobe on it. My wife doesn't like it that mine is just as big as hers is, but comes with the territory of a smaller unit. Then little drawer on the side here, receptacle and USB port there. And there's a little cubby here on my side where I keep all my various ancillary items in there. And on my wife's side, she chose to, instead of having that cubby, she chose to have an additional couple of drawers put in there. And also she wanted to have this marble table put on here so that that slides out and locks in place, so she can sit here and use her laptop or tablet or whatever, or do writing or do postcards or whatever she wants to do there. So that actually works out pretty nicely. Nice looking unit too. And in addition, on her side, there's additional receptacles and USB chargers on there as well. I mentioned earlier that I had added a camera inside the bedroom here so that we can look out the back of the coach at night, since there's no window in the back of the unit. So what I did is made a little mounting so that I can take this camera off and just clip it in there very easily. It's just held in by gravity, and then I just have a little switch I added here, so I can flip that switch, and then you can see what's behind the unit there. And speaking of lights, this one they did do right. They have a switch on the wall here. Just flip up for the ceiling lights in the bedroom, so you don't have to reach up to the ceiling and fumble around in the dark. Just come over here and flip that switch on. So that they did well. And thermostat for the AC unit here, and 12 volt outlet, and another 110 or 115 volt outlet there. A nice feature that they did add is that there is storage under the bed. And as I say, in smaller units, storage is always a big deal. One of the things that they did not do too well with it was that to get the bed to lift up, you would lift up here. You could only lift up on the mattress, since the platform that holds the mattress is back about 8 inches from here. So you had to kind of fumble under there and reach under another 8 inches to get a hold of that platform to lift it up. So I made a extension on there, put a handle on it here. This wooden piece that you see here, and that's bolted all the way through to the plate underneath there, so it makes it realistic to actually open that bed up now. I got struts on either side to support it. So another thing that they had below here, there's storage underneath the unit, or underneath the bed, which is great. I now have a larger drawer on either side, which is very easy to open from any place along here. You don't need a handle on it because you can reach underneath there anywhere. So if you had a handle on here, it'd be sticking out, and of course I would kick that with my size 13, so that would be a problem. So initially they had 2 smaller drawers here on each side because they had a water filter mounted in here, which is, I guess some people would want to have that. We don't drink the water that we get from any campground or RV park or anything. We use bottled water, and so we didn't really need the water filter. I have a water filter I can put on if the water is some places that bad that I'm worried about it being dirty or full of sand or something like that, but we really didn't need to have that. So that freed us up to be able to have me put in some larger drawers here, and these are just held with some 50-pound magnets here. You can see that magnet there, so when you close the drawer, latches, and that baby doesn't come sliding open when you're going down the highway. Beneath the drawer under the bed, there's another well that goes down, and in there I mounted our 2000 watt inverter. It's 4,000 watt peak, and the water pumps under there. One thing they did well is they put a valve on the water supply so that you can just take that hose, take the cap off, and stick that hose in a bottle of winter antifreeze and pump that directly into the system without having to put that in the tank first. So that really helps when you go to flush it out of the system, and it's very easy to put in. So they did that well. I have a spare 750 watt inverter in the back there in case something would happen to this one. So obviously we have to make sure that no matter what, the coffee pot's got to work. The bathroom is in this corner opposite the shower, and we replaced the door and all the hardware because we wanted the quarter sawn oak, more traditional look obviously, but added a towel bar on the top of there and some additional towel bars and so forth. Unit comes with 2 overhead cabinets here. They're not real deep, but you can fit quite a bit of stuff in there. Mirror, and here again there was a single receptacle, I added a double receptacle there so we had more area to plug in This is just a little soap holder. This thing can pull off of here and be removed if you want to clean underneath it. So you can put the hand soap in there so it's not jumping around while you're traveling. So it's my wife's little happy camper addition to the unit. Coffee pot in there. This is made a little bin here where we keep the fluid for the septic. A little stool here. My wife's kind of short, so sometimes she needs to get up a little higher. The toilet that is in here now is a Thefford, and we replaced it. Even though the other toilet was new, the other toilet had the ball flush mechanism in the bottom of the unit here, and that would frequently leak so that the toilet would not hold water, so obviously you didn't have a seal going into the black tank storage area. So when I asked dealers about it, they said you just get in there with a little emery board and clean around and clean the crap off that ball in there, literally. And I said, actually no, I don't think I'm going to do that. Another thing that they had was, there was on the old one, there was just a little round flush mechanism on the back of the toilet, so the front of the toilet didn't get rinsed down. So to accommodate that, rather than fix that problem, they added a little sprayer hose to clean out the rest of the inside of the toilet with. So you have again made several operations out of something very simple and added extra plumbing that can leak and everything. So all of that's gone, put in a regular toilet with the flap type valve on it that we've had before. I had real good luck with them, and that works very well for us. Additional cabinet below the sink here, and she's got towels and hair dryer and whatever other stuff in there. But little spot right here, a guy could almost put a 750 milliliter bottle of whiskey in there if you were inclined to do so. Here's another nice feature that was not done correctly. This is the roof AC unit, and what's nice is that it's ported into two trunk lines that run through the ceiling. The ceiling is insulated, and this drops down about, I don't know if you can see through here, but drops down a couple inches here to the roof of the unit. What we noticed was that we weren't getting very much flow through these, and yet when you would flip this lever, which is the bypass lever, you would get a ton of flow. Now normally you would get more through there anyway, but this was it was a huge difference. The bottom line was that when I opened this all up, we discovered that the ports that run out to these two trunk lines on either side had there's a board that was supposed to have been cut out to allow that flow into those, and those were not done. There was just a small gap going to those. So I opened that all up, cut that board out to the size that matched the vent, and voila, now we have actual good flow on the ceiling in our unit here. So one more thing that to look for when you get a unit. Something I mentioned earlier with the outside water tank. This is we're in the bedroom, and this is below the bed here. I added a switch here so that when we're going down the road, if we want to drain the tank, just flip this switch here, and the switch is lighted so that you know that it's on, and so you can just drain the fresh water tank from the inside here. The area above the shower, there's a skylight, as I mentioned earlier, from the outside, and it works very well to get light into the shower and so forth. Or sometimes at night, if there happens to be a street light near where you're parked, RV park, Walmart, whatever, campground with a street light, whatever, you get more light in here than you want. And of course you're in the bedroom area here, so you really don't want that. So I made some brackets on the top of here, and I have a cover that I made that's in two pieces so I can get around this. So I can put that cover in, and I can close this off so that you can get darkness during the night there. On the side of the bedroom on the top is a little storage area here. This just clips on to some cup holders that are on the top of here. And what this is for is it just allows some extra storage above. This is above the window here. In my case, I put my guitar in there, and on my wife's side she puts, I don't know, whatever she puts in there. God only knows what she puts in there. But anyway, gives a little bit of extra storage. It's up out of the way and doesn't interfere with clearance to the bed. I also added a bracket here, which is attached to the frame. Obviously the walls are like 1/8-inch paneling. You're not going to attach anything to those, so it's attached to the frame. Then I have a couple of carabiners on there so that she can put her backpack, mount her backpack on there when she's not using it.